A WWE Hall of Famer appears at TNA Bound for Glory. New champions are crowned at Bound for Glory. Two names join the TNA Hall of Fame, and an AEW star suffers a concussion. Hello and welcome to the solo Sunday news here at WhatCulture Wrestling. Myself, Andrew Pollard. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. I hope your weekend is going as well as it possibly can do. Right, let's get into wrestling. Let's get into TNA, and let's get into Bound for Glory. Yes, one of TNA's biggest events of the year took place last night, and we saw another TNA appearance from JBL, or just John Layfield as he's being referred to here. Now, this comes on the heels of John Layfield appearing at TNA Emergence back in August, where he whispered something in the ear of Nick Nemeth, whispered sweet nothings. Of course, Layfield's also accompanied Nemeth to the ring at Triple Mania back in August as well as appearing for GCW and MLW Major League Wrestling. This time, John Layfield made his presence known as Nick Nemeth defended the TNA World title against Joe Hendry in the co-main event, one of three main events as Bound for Glory was billed as. Now you had Frankie Kazarian as the special referee, who also in the on the pre-show won the Call Your Shot prize gauntlet. So he decided to cash in mid-match to get himself a title shot, basically. And then JBL, John Layfield, entered from the crowd, gave Kazarian a clothesline from hell. That's one of my favorite finishes in just a good old strong lariat. Now, I'm not a massive fan of JBL particularly, but that clothesline from hell, man, that has looked devastating for years. And it looked devastating on Kaz. It wasn't just Kazarian that got a clothesline from hell, though. Nope, there was a clothesline from hell for Joe Hendry on the outside as well. Again, as JBL, as Bradshaw, as John Layfield whispered something to Joe Hendry. He was just having a little chat with him on the outside, then gave him the clothesline from hell. And then also a clothesline from hell to Ryan Nemeth, Nick Nemeth's brother as well, just for good measure, for giggles. For the giggles. He did it for the lols. Nick Nemeth then hit the danger zone on Joe Hendry for the win to retain the TNA World title. I believe that makes his reign 100 days exactly. I'm sure yesterday was 99 days. Either way, Nick Nemeth had it for a little while now. Now, many thought that TNA would pull the trigger on Joe Hendry here. I mean, especially after he came up short at Slammiversary back in July. That was when Nick Nemeth won the title. But no, TNA have opted against going in on Joe Hendry as the world champion, which I think will be to the surprise of quite a few wrestling fans. As mentioned, Nemeth, he won the belt back at Slammiversary in there was a big six-way match. Since then, he's beaten Moose, he's beaten Josh Alexander, two kind of staples of the TNA main event scene. I mean, Josh Alexander in particular, for me, he's the gatekeeper of TNA, much like Kurt Angle used to be back in the day. Perk Angle, dare I say it. Moose, Josh Alexander, they both fall into Nick Nemeth. Mustafa Ali as well. That was a really fun match. But the point being that Nick Nemeth is clearly being positioned as like the guy for TNA right now, and he's a great wrestler, man. I mean, there was a really fun match last week for House of Glory where Nick Nemeth defeated El Hijo del Vikingo. That was Don't Be Sleeping on House of Glory, by the way. HOG available through Triller TV. Just always a lot of fun with Hog. Mike Santana there just killing it as the world champion. But anyway, speaking of Vikingo, he was also in action at Bound for Glory. Coming up short, though, against X-Division champion Speedball Mike Bailey. But while Speedball retained his title, there were a couple of new champions crowned at Bound for Glory, the first of which being Masha Slamovich. Yes, Masha defeated Jordan Grace to become the new TNA Knockouts champion. There was the snow plow off the top rope. Then there was a power driver for the 1, 2, 3. Masha is your new Knockouts champ. Masha, just what a talent, man. Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich, two exceptional professional wrestlers. Masha always looks badass, but she looked even more badass in this all-white gear, which I'm sure is something that will put a smile on the face of our own Michael Hamflett, who loves the white gear, because white gear, pristine, and Masha looked very pristine. This brought an end to Jordan's latest reign as Knockouts champ at 287 days. It is a first Knockouts title win for Masha Slamovich. She is, of course, a three-time tag champ. But yeah, it's quite the move to take the belt off Jordan Grace. It has been a very, very solid run for Jordan Grace, of course. There are those plentiful rumblings and rumors that Jordan's TNA contract is up next year, and you'd imagine I'm sure there's a lot of companies that have interest in Jordan Grace, but one in particular right now seems to, there's a very good chance she'll end up in the E. Some other new champions were crowned though, and it's the Hardy Boys. Yes, Matt and Jeff are the new TNA Tag Team Champions. This was as I said, it was billed as a triple main event of Masha versus Jordan Grace. of Nick Nemeth against Joe Hendry, and then the very final match of the night, which was a Full Metal Mayhem match, basically a TLC match, which was the Hardys against ABC's Chris Bay and Ace Austin, and then the System's Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards, who came into the match as the tag champs, but it was the Hardys who left the match as the tag champs. There was just a lot of carnage in this one, as you would expect from the Full Metal Mayhem concept or TLC concept. It's just there was just a lot of carnage, man. There was some really cool special Hardy themed art on the actual ring canvas, and the weapons kind of had lots of Hardy designs on them. Both Hardys actually got the belts at the end. They both reached up to grab the titles, making them a 3-time tag team champions in TNA. I mean, this is on the back of what, 8 times in WWE, I believe, when you add up all there was like a Raw and a SmackDown one, then there was just the main back in the day WWF tag titles. I think it's 8 times for the Hardys there. Of course, they were technically WCW tag team champions as well, briefly. I think it was like 2 weeks they had with those belts as part of the Alliance crossover, blah blah blah, the Invasion. Ring of Honor tag champions, House of Glory, speaking of House of Glory House of Glory tag team champions as well, the Hardys back in the day. There was just lots of crazy stuff. There was Brian Myers did the edge spot on Jeff, where it was the swinging, holding the belt. Brian Myers came off a ladder in the corner with the spear, like Edge did back at, was that WrestleMania 17? Or was it the summer? I think, yeah, it was WrestleMania 17, wasn't it, of course? So they mimicked that. There was just a lot of, like I said, just a lot of mess, should we say. But yes, it was the mess in the best possible way. There was a lot of just brutality here, as you would get with these sorts of matches. Lots of horrendous looking bumps that those 6 guys are going to be feeling it this morning, is all I'm going to say. So yes, the Hardys are your new TNA tag team champions. And sticking with TNA, because, hey, man, I love TNA. TNA's great. Don't be sleeping on TNA. I will always make an excuse to talk about TNA when possible. And this weekend, it's a pretty slow news weekend apart from TNA stuff. So we'll stick with TNA, and we'll stick with the TNA Hall of Fame. Now, Bound for Glory, on the pre-show, there was the 15th and 16th inductees into the TNA Hall of Fame. It was Bob Ryder and it was Rhino. Now, we had comments, talking head comments from not just people in TNA. There was people synonymous with TNA who now work for other companies. AJ Styles, for example, popped up to make some comments. There was Jeff Jarrett, there was Abyss, there was Sanjay Dutt, James Storm, Frankie Kazarian, Chase Stevens, that's a name I've not heard in a long time, Chris Harris, Eric Young, Kurt Angle, Josh Matthews, and a fair few more familiar faces, all making their comments about Bob Ryder and Rhino. It was EY Eric Young who inducted Bob Ryder into the TNA Hall of Fame. And talked about, I mean, if you're not familiar with Bob Ryder, he was somebody that just was so pivotal to that company getting started. He previously worked for ECW, worked for WCW before they closed their doors, and then was just so important in getting TNA up and running. It was essentially the co-founder of the company, you could say. He was the one that encouraged Jerry Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett to start TNA in the first place, NWA TNA as it was back then. As Eric Young talked about in his speech here, it was Bob Ryder's attention to detail that got NWA TNA up and running, and continue it through for the company to be what it is to this very day. And Bob Ryder was the first official employee of TNA. That was back in 2002, of course, and he stayed with the company through until he sadly passed away back in 2020. As for Rhino, he was inducted by Tommy Dreamer, and yes, it was in Rhino's hometown of Detroit, Michigan. And it was a very good, very fun speech from Rhino. It was odd to see him in a jacket, man. He had like some nice black trousers on, a big red jacket, a little white shirt open down to his chest. It's like, man, dude's looking the business. And I mean, in terms of looking, Rhino, he recently turned 49 early this month and just looks incredible for his age. It's like, man, have you like really aged in those like the past 20 years? No, I mean, I'm sure his body has got a lot more wear and tear on it, but yeah, the dude looked great, and it was a really fun speech, man, where he thanked Jim Cornette, Scott D'Amore, Edge, Christian, Joe Legend got a shout out, Paul Heyman, of course, WWE and Triple H specifically, the Sandman got a mention, Sabu. There was some really, really nice words about Heath as well, Heath Slater, Heath Miller, who seemed to really help him out when Rhino's brother was unfortunately going through cancer treatment. Just Rhino came across as like just such a good dude. It was really nice to see. I mean, the first time I saw Rhino, it was the final years of ECW. Here in the UK, ECW used to air at that point in time on a channel called Bravo, which I believe does not even exist anymore and has not existed for a long time. And it was just Rhino was just this absolute savage, this beast, just power driving fools. He's part of the network, which was headed up by Cyrus the Virus, of course, Don Callis. There was Steve Corino, there was Jack Victory, Jerry Lynn, Tajiri, and just Rhino was just like smashing everybody. And obviously would go down as the last the last world champion of the original ECW. Just won that belt just unfortunately just before the company closed its doors and had to fold. But yeah, what a talent, man. Former TNA champion, of course. Well, NWA champion because he won the title there when it was still NWA TNA, as it were. But yeah, very much deserved Hall of Fame induction for Rhino. Let us know in the comments your favorite Rhino moments, man. I've got a lot of time for that, man. And that gore. Chef's kiss. Right, let's wrap things up with one final story, and it is also a non-TNA story. I've got all my TNA love out there. Go watch Bound for Glory as well. I've not seen the entire show, but the matches I've seen have been exceptional. So go check that out, man. That's on my to-do list for the rest of the today, is to catch up on the rest of Bound for Glory, and also to get onto UFC, man. I need to know what... I'm avoiding spoilers. I'm desperately trying to avoid spoilers for that. Right, yeah, our final story involves, unfortunately, Willow Nightingale. Now, CMLL announced that Willow Nightingale suffered a concussion at Friday's Grand Prix event, where she was part of. It was Team World against Team Mexico. But yeah, unfortunately, Willow suffered a concussion in that match. She's been pulled from 2 events for CMLL, one of which was last night, which was Sábado de Arena Coliseo, and the other one is tonight, which is Domingo Familia in Arena Mexico. Now, she was replaced last night by Xerxes, tonight by Persephone. No further details on the severity of this issue. I mean, obviously, concussions are very much... something that needs to be monitored in terms of you can't really put a set like, right, they've got a concussion, so they're going to be out for a week or 2 weeks or a month. It's very much keep assessing things as they go, and hopefully it's not too long before Willow Nightingale is back in a ring, be that for CMLL, be that for AEW, be that wherever, because, I mean, Willow Nightingale, man, just one of the most entertaining, enjoyable wrestlers in the game these days. Just you cannot not like Willow Nightingale. If you're not a fan of Willow Nightingale, then man, you must be dead inside. It takes a cold heart to not have a smile when Willow comes out doing the big leg kick, the clapping, just as a fired up babyface, man. Willow Nightingale is just, in a world these days, 2024, where we're all smart and we all like to think we know more than we know, and it's cool to cheer the bad guy. Willow Nightingale is just, she proves that classic babyfaces still exist and can still work in 2024. Because man, you see Willow and it's one of those wrestlers where you're like, this is why I like wrestling, man. Look at this babyface. Look at me clapping along. I like it's one of those where it's like, yeah, this isn't the cool heel, man. This isn't MJF. This is Willow Nightingale, hell of a talent, man. Hell of a future for her. To me, like I said, one of the most entertaining wrestlers on the planet. So yeah, hopefully it's not too long before we see Willow back in action. Best wishes for myself and all of us here at WhatCulture Wrestling on a recovery from that concussion. And that brings an end to this weekend's Solo Sunday News. Of course, in the words of Phil Chambers, continue your YouTube journey here with this fantastic, great video, which I have no idea what it is, to be honest, right now. Hopefully it's great. I'm sure it is. But I've been Andrew Pollard. This has been WhatCulture Wrestling. This has been the Solo Sunday News. You have a great rest of your weekend, and I will catch you next week.